Fighter. You are loved, black man. I love you. We love you. There is no comparison to you. You are resourceful. Anywhere you go, you raise the vibration. You are incredible. You are so impressive, black man. You are highly desired and highly favored. Anything you desire, you get. You are balanced in your divine masculine and divine feminine energies. You are intuitive and you are logical. You are an amazing listener. You are an incredible expression of your thoughts. You are self-defined. You are a natural born leader. You are strong. You are courageous. You are so...
Today's topic is because so many brothers just don't, for whatever reason, either don't seek the help they need, or if they do try to seek the help they need, they can't find it, or they can't find it from someone who is compatible or that looks like them. So there's a whole lot of factors that we want to discuss today. So hopefully someone who is possibly not contemplating seeking the help that they need, or getting help they need, but it's not successful, or they're contemplating even making the ultimate choice, will be deterred or have a new way of thinking by the time we're finished with this conversation. So before we really go into it, first I'd like to turn the mic over to Lauren, who is the leader of our group, Black Cosmos, and she will tell you about our group and carry from there. Lauren?
So peace, everyone. Thank you for signing on for our 9th installment of our Let's Talk series. The Black Cosmos Society, established in 2017 and based here in Las Vegas, Nevada, is a social club that's on a mission to create environments to help facilitate and promote cultural trust among Black people. So we seek to create a sense of community through social interaction and experiences that call upon our members to expand their knowledge of self, history, economics, and politics. Our leadership council is comprised of diverse talent and dedicated Black men and women who want to see their people overcome and transcend the often collective disadvantage in our current political ecology. So if this resonates with you, connect with us. We are the Black Cosmos Society on all social media platforms. Back to you, Martin.
Thank you, Lauren. So as we always start off our panel discussion and our presentation, we start with an ancestor moment, giving some type of homage to a Black leader or pioneer in an industry or a sector that we are discussing. So first, Lauren will present to you our ancestor moment for today.
All right, got my slide going. All right, you guys. Today, we honor our ancestor, Dr. Maxie Clarence Maltsby Jr. He was born in 1932 and was an American psychologist and author on books on emotional and behavioral self-management. He was awarded the Lifetime Achievement Award by the National Association of Cognitive Behavioral Therapists, but more notably, he was the architect of a method in psychotherapy called rational behavior therapy, while also developing self-help techniques of rational self-counseling. He was a professor at the esteemed Howard University in Washington, D.C. He also served as a medical officer in the United States Air Force, and he traveled the world working with other great minds in his field. Today, we honor Dr. Maltsby. May we always remember him.
Great, thank you, Lauren. So before we go any further, first I'd like to welcome and thank our 3 panelists today. We have Dr. Gatson, Mr. Davis, and Dr. Farquhar. So I'd like to take a moment to allow each of our panelists to introduce themselves and tell you a little bit about the background. Dr. Gatson, can you please just tell us about yourself, sir?
Yes, you guys, I'm so excited to be here to share this moment with you guys today. I'm Dr. Gatson. I'm currently practicing as a private therapist here in the Phoenix area. Anybody that needs some assistance, any additional help, so on and so forth, you can look me up on Psychology Today. My background is I've been in the mental health field a little bit over 20 years. I've worked in several different positions, from case manager to therapist, and then and now, you know, with my doctorate and everything, practicing. I'm happy that we're doing this. I see the need. The need is great. You know, it's real important to break down these different barriers, to address certain aspects of different things that continue to be present in our community. My education-wise, my undergrad is from the University of Tulsa. I got 2 masters from the Ottawa University. I got my doctorates from Arizona State. And most of all, I'm just, you know, enthused to be here with you guys, to be sharing this moment with all this great talent, all this great knowledge, and to really support at this moment where we should be and where we should be going. So thank you, guys.
Thank you, Dr. Gatson. Brother Davis, can you please tell us about yourself?
Yes, my name is John Davis, and I'm in Las Vegas, Nevada. I'm originally from California. I work in both areas, in rehabilitation counseling and also in mental health. I got my master's degree from Cal State mental health.
I'm sorry, sir. We've kind of lost your sound. We're having a hard time hearing you. Can you please readdress?
Okay, then. Can you hear me now?
Yes, I can hear you better now.
Okay. And I got my master's degree from Cal State East Bay in Hayward, California, in mental health. And I got my MBA in human resource management at Golden Gate University. I practiced in vocational rehabilitation counseling, private practice, and also as a counselor for Social Security Administration and evaluator. And I'm very happy to participate today because I believe that Afro-American men are having a very difficult time in mental health and also dealing with some of the other stressors in society.
Great, thank you. And Dr. Farquhar, can we please get an introduction from you, sir?
Yes, good morning, everybody. So my name is Keith Fairclough, Jr. I am I'm a licensed mental health counselor, or a clinical professional counselor here in Las Vegas. I've been in the field of mental health, I want to say since about 2009, and just like Dr. Gatson, a lot of different capacities, you know, within the school, within mental health hospitals, with community mental health, and now with my own practice. And I provide those services. I don't have an office. I actually either go to I take the community health model and I'll go to my clients, or we can have sessions via the telehealth, you know, Zoom, Google Meet, so on and so forth. I've written a book called The Crumpled Heart, dealing with, you know, what happens to us when, you know, emotions kind of, you know, when they hit us, you know, what happens on the inside. Because I know a lot of times people don't see that. So, and I'm working on some other, I'm sorry. And I'm working on some other, you know, writing right now. And it's always geared towards some type of mental health of what's going on inside of us. Education-wise, my undergrad was from FSU, Florida State University. And my master's degree was from Palm Beach Atlantic University in counseling psychology. And right now I'm in school going for my doctorate degree in educational leadership. My current position, job, in addition to my private practice, is a school counselor, where I'm primarily working with teachers to essentially give them the mental health support that they need so that they can support our students. And I guess in addition to that, you know, I try to make like motivational videos or videos to help people if obviously I can't be in contact with them. And so I have like a YouTube channel that does that as well. So a lot of irons in the fire right now, but and hopefully to branch out and do more in the future.
Very good. Thank you so much. So Lauren and I have been talking about this subject for months and months and months, even way before COVID. And and even in that time, just like with the three panelists, I shared my own personal experience with Lauren, and we do feel that this subject is very crucial for our community. So I come from a standpoint, and one of the driving reasons for me pushing this panel today is because everything we're going to talk about today, I personally live my own personal experience, and so I'm going to be a little candid for the purpose of uh, uh, meeting our objective in hopes that my own testimony will be a blessing to someone, some specifically men today. So Queens, we love you and we appreciate your willingness to participate and watch. But today you will be muted and you will be listening. This conversation today is for Black men from a Black male perspective. Real talk, what Black men go through, and in hopes that we can, again, iron sharpening iron, us men can support each other and break down some of the barriers that keep us from getting the help we need, and also maybe that our queens can learn that what we go through is very, very tough and difficult, and that in no means to diminish or detract from what our queens go through. But today's topic is about men from a men's perspective. So all of our queens that are on the line, I truly appreciate your willingness to participate and to listen. So without further ado, I'd like to talk about why it's important for us to have this conversation, not just as a Black community, but also, but then again, to the target audience. So as you see on our screen, African Americans are 10% more likely to experience serious psychological distress than any other race. And so some of the things that we deal with as a Black community are not, but they're things that other races can take for granted. We're the ones dealing with the police brutality. We're the ones dealing with the economic disenfranchisement. We're the ones who deal with the schools who are not adequately equipped to teach us. We're the ones who are taught in a European system of thinking versus our own Afrocentric way of thinking. There's so many things against us that we have it harder than our counterparts. So there's a lot of statistics that speak to our challenges and why we deal with what we deal with, or we experience psychologically what we've had to deal with. But despite the needs, only 1 in 3 African Americans will seek the help that they need for various reasons. And that's things we want to flush out and put some cards on the table today. We're less likely to receive the guidance or consistent care that we need, and we're less frequently included in even any research that is done on the psychological impacts or what we deal with as a society. And so as we need more psychologists or people in the field to champion the cause for us. So before we go into anything and we'll start posing questions and topics, the panelists we're going to kind of go subject by subject, and each panelist will definitely be given ample opportunity to weigh in on each topic and subject from their area of expertise. So I'd like to start off again as another piece of breaking down the barrier and allowing ones to be vulnerable. I'd like to show this video. So hopefully you can hear this fine.
And now we're going to move on to a GMA exclusive. Emmy-winning actor Courtney B. Vance is opening up about his family's battle with mental health and suicide. The very personal revelation comes just before World Mental Health Day. That's on Saturday. TJ Holmes had a chance to sit down with him. Yeah, Robert, he credits his mother with saving his life with something she insisted he do 30 years ago. Seek professional
B.
Martin, looks as though we've lost sound on our end at least. You're on mute, Martin.
His mother said after the funeral that he says changed the course of his life, telling the whole family to seek professional therapy.
It saved our lives. It saved each of our lives.
You said doing that saved your life. Do you mean that quite literally? And what do you think would have happened to you had you not done that?
I could have been the statistic myself. If the hero in my life, my father, did that to himself, that potentially could have been an option for me.
His father suffered from depression, but Van says he was prompted to speak about it now after his godson took his own life just this summer.
23 years old, he was in crisis. His mind was attacked. He couldn't take it anymore. I said, that's enough.
A June survey found 1 in 4 young people aged 18 to 24 had seriously considered suicide in the past month. The CDC pins that finding to the pandemic. Vance has partnered now with Dr. Robin on mental health awareness. Dr. Robin is a licensed psychologist, best known as Oprah's longtime resident therapist.
Part of being human is that we feel joy and we feel despair, but we don't hear that, TJ. We don't hear our leaders talking about how they are restless and afraid because, you know, they're supposed to always have an answer. That's absurd. We are so ashamed to be human.
What would you tell folks who still say, I don't want to go to therapy?
This is what's important. What is therapy? It can be traditionally going to see a psychiatrist, psychologist, a mental health expert. It's important if we can do it. But what therapy really is, it is finding a safe person and place where you can express what is going on within and overhear the conversation you have been having with yourself all of your life. The more we hide our sickness, the more our sickness reigns supreme.
Vance found his safe place, determined now to help erase the stigma of mental illness.
We're breaking this curse. We're breaking it right now.
And World Mental Health Day is Saturday. According to Vance, Dr. Robin partnered with the National Alliance on Mental Illness to help raise awareness. And they put it this way. We have a COVID pandemic. We have a racism pandemic that have led to a mental health pandemic in this country. Suicide, depression, anxiety rates all have spiked during the pandemic. And they want everybody out there to know you need to first acknowledge that you need help. You also need to acknowledge that you deserve it. It's okay. You need to get rid of that stigma. You deserve some help. NAMI.org, the National Alliance of Mental Illness.org is a great resource. And challenge everybody today, guys. Somebody you haven't talked to in a while, just reach out.
I think
Do that
All the
today.
difference.
I think he just helped a lot of people.
Yeah, just by speaking out. There is no health without mental health, is the point. You got
Let's
it.
talk about that in mental health. We talk about our physical health, but not the mental health. Thank
you guys
Thank
for
you,
this
Courtney B. Vance, for that, and for advice from experts about protecting your mental health, apps to try, other free resources. You can visit goodmorningamerica.com/mental health. And TJ will have more on GMA3 with Amy because you all tell us what we need to know.
Exactly, and we need to know more. Thank you.
Well, hey there, GMA fans. Robin Roberts
All
here.
right.
Thanks for checking.
So hopefully, everyone got something out of that. I definitely thought that was important to share because it speaks so much to what we deal with collectively. What I'd like to do is start off here with our panelists and allow each one of you to kind of just speak on your takeaways and some key points from what we just watched. If I could start with you, Brother Davis, and maybe give us your thoughts.
I found that listening to the safety display that a lot of African Americans are afraid to use the mental health system because they feel like they're being disfranchised from it. Mental health for them is something that we don't talk about openly. For example, like you said earlier, Martin, from my own perspective, I'm a Vietnam veteran. I came home with post-traumatic stress disorder. Did not even know I had it. And I went through 30, 40 years trying to fight those demons. So eventually, at the age of 62, I was finally diagnosed with PTSD. That impact that it had on my family, my children, it definitely had a negative impact on them. I think a lot of us African American men felt ashamed to go to seek help. And listening to Corey's story, his family had the same history. Um, I've tried to encourage my own children to go and seek help from issues that I had, try to encourage them, make sure that they change their life. But the issues of mental health is very, very pervasive in our community. From a professional point of view, a lot of times when I've seen people come in and see me about mental health, African Americans are looking more for case management from me. They're looking for more for resources versus mental health. And provide me how I can get money for pay my light bills or food on my table. Once you get those issues resolved, they don't want to talk about the mental health. They're gone. And the next thing, they're coming right back on this perpetual cycle. So that concerns me too.
Very, very powerful, and I can resonate. Well, first, thank you for your service because you did yours before mine, and I can definitely resonate with that because after several tours working at the Port Mortuary in the military, I also had my own battle. Well, I actually still have my own battle with being diagnosed with PTSD, and I know the pitfalls of not seeking the help that I should have gotten. And also, but also I'm a living witness of what a person can be once they do get that assistance that is needed, and they break down some things we're going to talk about in just a few minutes. So thank you for that, Dr. Gatson. Your take, sir.
Yeah, I think that definitely, kind of what they presented and talked about, that this goes along with a historical, perspective. I mean, when we look at mental health, we look at our community reaching out for help, it's always has to be looked at in that historical lens. Most of the remedies, most of my family on my father's side are Gullah Geechee people, which means direct descendants from West Africa and South Carolina. So, being there, everything was treated at home. If there wasn't a remedy that wasn't at home, as there wasn't something that was found in the community, if it wasn't something that couldn't be addressed in the church,
right,
then, it had no solution to it. And the thing is now is that as we become more aware of the different mental health services, physical health service, any type of health service, in the Black community, and actually having people that, represent us, kind of look like us, talk like us, walk like us. I believe that we are seeing more of an openness, although there is still a stigma, of course, associated with it, because everything was always usually treated at home. You got a cold, you're sick, you half dead, drink some cod liver oil, so on and so forth, So that's the thing that I see, that we really have to make our community aware, because as Mr. Davis had said, usually they come in from some type of case management. And I don't think that they're truly aware of the causality effect of what exactly is going on and how it connects to the hierarchy of need, right? Maslow's basic hierarchy of need. And how all of those different things connect and flow together. So until those things are able to be joined, and there's a full understanding of us supporting, educating, not just talk it, but walking along with our people in our community, then there's always going to be a disconnect. And along with that, a mistrust because of the historical trauma that we have experienced.
Facts, facts. Dr. Fairclough, I'd like to get your take on the video, sir.
Yeah, I just kind of want to piggyback off, what everyone said so far. There's so many different aspects, to consider, working in case management, like Mr. Davis was saying, a lot do come in for services. They come in for, I might need, my bills paid, or I might need services for my child representation, or whatever the case may be. And the mental health aspect is not really the focus. It's not really what, they are initially looking for. And and just like his father, because you're taught to be strong. You're taught to be strong. You got to hold it all in. You got to keep it all together. You're not supposed to talk about it. You're not supposed to share it. That's not what we do. You just take it and you keep pushing forward. And like Dr. Gadsden said, there's a very, you can't separate that from history, because within the Black community, that's what we've had to do for a very, very long time, is just keep pushing, keep pushing, keep pushing. And it's almost like that's the norm now, And so the move towards, seeking mental health, it's difficult because then, we don't see a lot of people like us. We don't see a lot of, like, even a lot of the clients that I get now, my practice, they say constantly, we don't see people like you. We don't see people like, I don't see someone that represents me. And so there's that lack of representation within the mental health field as well, because there are those trust issues, because that holding it all in, that has a lot to do with trust as well. Because if you were to express that, you wouldn't be seen as a man. You wouldn't be seen as strong. You wouldn't be seen as someone who has it all together. And so, you have that societal pressure, that cultural pressure, like, to be a man, you're not supposed to have any problems. You're not supposed to feel. And you're carrying all that, and just, hearing in the video when Clarence said his father, had depression, he ended up committing suicide, and then his godson committed suicide. That really struck a chord with me, because it's like they're holding all that pressure, and if they were to had someone that that they could trust, that they could open up to, I think that's a lot of thing. When we're as Black people, we've been disenfranchised for so long. It's very difficult to trust anybody. It's very difficult to open up and say, hey, this is what I'm struggling with. This is what I'm going through. And the sad part is that so many of us are going through the exact same thing. You could have 10 Black men in a room going through the exact same thing, and not one person say anything, and they feel like it's just me. It's just, I'm the only one going through it, because, this person over here has it all together. This person over here has it all together. And we use material markers, like, well, look at their family, or look at their position in the church, or look at their position at work, not knowing that, yeah, he's trying to commit suicide. He's thinking about just having a mental breakdown, or all these things that are going on. We don't see that because we're not opening up, or not trusting. And I found that, working with a lot of young Black men and just Black men in general, that when I just create that space, I don't come in with the expertise and stuff like that. It's not saying I don't have it, but when I just create that space, like, hey, this is a safe place, this is a place we can open up and just be yourself, a lot of that stuff goes away. And then they're able to open up and really work on the things that that they struggle with. And so I think like this video, I think the fact that he's creating that awareness that there are people out there that you can trust. There are people out there that are willing to help, that want to help you. I think that's just a phenomenal thing. It's just a phenomenal thing.
All right, thank you so much for that. And you hit on some key points as I kind of circle around and recap some things that stood out in this video, even from a statistical perspective. We said 1 in 4 young men under 24, I think these are 23, have contemplated suicide. That's a quarter of our young Black men, our future, the future leaders of our community, the future leaders of families. And that strikes so much, especially when we think about the effect on our queens who are tired of carrying the load for our community in our absence. our queens don't want to keep doing everything. They would prefer for us to be in the leadership roles as designed order, but they can't because we are carrying this burden. And as you just correctly said, and even spoke my truth, is we can be 10 of us in a room and think I'm the only one, and I'm not going to lose face, lose respect. If you got it all together, I'm not going to be the one person doesn't have together, and we're doing a disservice not only to each other, but to our women who are depending on us, to our progeny, to the young Black, all of our community, but let alone the young Black men, 15, 16, 17-year-olds. If they don't have someone that looks like them, emulating these vulnerabilities, as in it's okay to be vulnerable, it's okay to cry, it's okay to feel something other than anger and pain, then they have nothing else, then they think that's okay with them, for them, and so they don't feel safe, and therefore they have nothing else to turn to but some destructive behavior, or even taking out their own life. And we as Black men need to help kill this generational situation that we've set up, so we can be better equipped to support the young men coming up behind us. So thank you. And I thought it was very powerful that after he said his hero died, his hero killed himself, his father, and that was also powerful. And then you add that to it was a good thing though that his mother forced him to get the help. His mother forced him to talk about it. And so we need to be in a place where more of us who look like us are forcing each other to talk about it, to where our queens can focus on their own healing and their own nurturing, and we can take that on. So appreciate the feedback. What I'd like to do is, why is it stopping on me? So what are some of the problems that we deal with, and how does it face us? All of you already hit on a lot of the points that we want to flush out. So which tells us that we're all right on point and in concert with each other with this line of thinking. So I read this. Many men, arguably most, struggle with the idea of being openly vulnerable and sharing their emotions. And for those who grew up as sensitive boys, who are basically told not to cry, not to show emotion, to have it all together, we're subject to ridicule and shaming for what should be, again, as was stated in the video, natural expressions of emotion. We should be, free to feel joy, to feel happiness, but instead we're supposed to feel anger. We're not supposed to be sensitive. And so we have a unique challenge that is, because as men, if we're not big and buffed, you don't have a lot of money, and for some depends on the sexual prowess, then we're nothing. If we're not a provider, we don't have those things. Those are the only two options that we feel that we have. And it's unfortunate because then we hold each other accountable for living up to those things, because that's all we think that we're supposed to be. And then as you stated earlier, Doc, if we do show some vulnerability, we're told we're not a real man. And we hear those words from a lot of women, let alone each other. But we hear those words, we're not a real man. It comes from our women. And us men being real. Out of everything else, the one thing that we want from our women is what? Respect. And if we're not a real man, we're not getting that respect. So we hold those things in, and it's doing us a disservice. So what happens when we don't get the help that we need? Again, Doc, as you stated, we become emotionally volatile. We act out, whether it's some other hypersexuality, whether it's drinking, whether it's gambling, whether it's something that's obsessive, because we have no other outlet that's healthy to release our pain or our anger. And if we do release our pain or anger, we could be considered a threat to someone. So it become aggression. But what other alternatives do we have? I was sharing, even in the situation, those of you who are familiar with Chris Teigen and I just forgot her, John Legend. They just lost, she just had a miscarriage about 3 weeks ago. And all this support is out there for her, which is not a problem for her loss. But don't nobody give a damn about what's going on with John Legend, and it's his seed too. Where's his space to feel the pain, to feel vulnerability for the loss of his seed? We don't get that space. So then if he does act out, he's a threat. Doc, any of you on the panel, anything you want to expound on what I just said?
You said it's true because it's assumed that as men, our emotions are buried so deeply that we don't have a chance to express them. We don't have anyone to turn to express how we feel. We don't encourage our boys to sit down and express what's going on with them. They look at the role models of being tough, exterior, interior toughness, however they're dying inside. I feel that we need to encourage them, tell us how they feel. As men, we don't do that to each other. It's very difficult to find a friend that you can go to as a male and say, hey, this is what I'm feeling, feel like you're being judged. So I think that even when John Legend, no one has said anything. Look at the articles, all the pouring out for his wife, but I feel that he is struggling inside.
Yeah, definitely. I believe that, this is definitely a tough situation. These emotions and feelings that we're not able to express openly. And most people say that it's vulnerability, but it's really not vulnerability. What it is it's courage, and what we've lost along the way, again, and this all of these symptoms, because that is what it is. All of these symptoms go back to us being brought to America. It does. And the trauma that went on then and the trauma that continues now. Some things have actually changed, but a lot really hasn't. It just looks different, and we weren't allowed then to express our feelings, our emotions, our anger, any of those emotions. And along the way, what we actually lost, especially as men in our community, is our stories. Because that's what was hit on earlier, is it's our stories as being able to sit down as brothers, being able to sit down as warriors, because that's what we are, and respected by each other, but also having the courage to have that iron sharpens iron talk, to say, hey, brother, I'm in need right now. I'm struggling. This really hurt me. And when we don't get these needs met, then what happens is we develop these other coping mechanisms that we're talking about. The gambling, the women, the substance abuse, and all of these other things that are destroying our community. So somehow what we are going to have to do is we are going to have to bring that dialogue back and bring our stories back. If you look at our culture coming from Africa to America and any other culture that has ever been dominated, what did they take? They took the arts. If I take your story, then I take you away. And somehow we are going to have to come back together, be able to share and express these feelings and emotions. And the easy way to do that is through story. So that's what my take is.
Facts. Thank you so much. Dr. Franco, do you have anything to answer?
Yeah, it's unfortunate to say, but what's happened to John Legend, that's the norm. That's that you're why do you need support? You're not the one that carried the baby. You're just there, you know? So there's no really need to support you. You shouldn't feel any kind of way. And, you know, and once again, this kind of hits close to home because my wife had 2 miscarriages. One was on Christmas Day and another was when we were, was just, you know, like it was in September or something like that. And that stuff hurts when you go back and you look at the ultrasound and you remember the heartbeats and you remember the names you're going to give them, you know. But once again, there's no space for, you know, us to discuss that. There's no support. There's no one coming to say, hey, I heard you lost your child. You know, man, that must be tough. It must be hard. There's no space for that. Your job, once again, be strong, hold her down, and you just deal with it, or you shouldn't feel that. And once again, you know, that camaraderie, it's not there for that support. You know, there's no platform like, hey, you know, in this case, John, you know, that must be painful for you as well. And I can't imagine what it's like to have seen your child, you know, to have seen them moving around and to hear and just lose them like that. There's nothing for that. There's nothing for us in that regard. And so, but once again, it goes back to those stereotypes. It goes back to us, you know, that shouldn't bother you. You know, and that's another thing, you know, people say like, oh, these things shouldn't bother you, you know, and no offense to our queens or anything like that, but a lot of times it's like, you know, you could say something to a man, you know, and the expectation is that shouldn't bother you. You shouldn't let that hurt your feelings. You shouldn't be feeling or having that reaction to it, you know, because you're a man and you're supposed to just hold it down and let me vent and let me get my emotions out while you just take it and just keep moving on. And that's, you know, unfortunately, it's just not fair for us as men, as Black men, to have to force to hold all that in and then let it come out. Because that's another thing with emotions. When you hold emotions aren't meant to be held in. And when you hold them, it's toxic. And that's where these behaviors come from. These behaviors are just us trying to get those emotions out. Because when they're inside, they destroy us. They tear us apart. They tear us, you know, they just rob us of our energy, rob us of our courage, rob us of our confidence. Because we'll just hold all that stuff in. So we got to try to express it in some way. So what we do is we try to do it in ways that are socially acceptable, right? We try to do, oh, I'm big and bad and I'm strong. You know, I run the streets, or I got all this money, or I have all this status, or I'm the sexual prowess, all that. We try to get it out in that way. But the reality, the situation is, we just want to be able to express and like, hey, that hurt me. You know, I'm hurt. I'm sad on the inside, you know, or that frustrated me because I felt like I wasn't respected, or I felt like I wasn't taken into consideration. You know, until that space is made where we can do that, it's unfortunate, but we're going to have more things like that, like what happened to John Legend and many other Black men who experience things and are told, you know, you shouldn't feel any kind of way about that because that's not what men are supposed to do. So that's just kind of my take on the situation that, you know, he's going through and a lot of men go through as well.
And even to take that a step further, you're exactly right. But what we're going to continue to see is a breakdown of the Black family, right?
Yeah.
Yep.
Because it goes a step further than that. What we seek when we come home, we seek that comfort. We seek that refuge. That is our refuge. And as you guys have said it, if our queen isn't stepping up to the plate where we can have the courage to share these things, to share this emotion, then we're going to go look elsewhere. And again, I hate to keep bringing this up, but if you go back to historically on that same playing field, there are different people in society that may not look like our queens that wasn't raised in that type of environment. So we have a lot of different things that are going on a lot of different levels that are actually hurting us as people. And we never address these things. We just look at the things on the surface level and say, okay, well, that there goes another brother that then stepped out, or so on and so forth. Or there goes another queen that then stepped out, because we see that a lot now too. But the whole thing is it's this being able to have courage and share with one another. And somehow growing up in these same type of environments together, that has been broken down over time in our community. And I believe that that is one of the things that is creating the most despair when it comes to the Black African American family unit. It really is. That's one of the main things that you hit on.
So facts. If I want to go back to capitalize on another point that you made, though, Dr. Fairclough, you were talking about how we're supposed to stand and just take it for her venting. So I want to take that a step further when I talk about taking it. Let's just say she's angry or she's upset. And let's just even say she's rightfully upset, to just remove all the barriers. Come on, taking it. Now we're supposed to take her hitting us, which is abuse. And if you complain that she hit you, then you're a punk, because it shouldn't bother you because you're a man. You can't hit her back. I'm not advocating hitting her back. I'm saying you can't hit her back because you're a man. If you do get hurt, you're not supposed to go to the police because you're a man. And if she hit you and you talk to other men, or you let her hit you, guess you ain't a man. Where do we go? What's your thoughts on that?
Well, I was just thinking about two things. The first thing is, we don't sit down as men and talk to our queens and say, hey, this is how I feel. We have some responsibility with that, I feel. Second thing is, if I can't go talk to my queen and express my emotion, then our relationship lacks trust. And that's an issue that is going back into our family system. Yeah, trust. The second thing that you just talked about, how do I define myself? Do I define myself by what others expect me to be as a man, or I define myself as I want to define it with my queen? That's what we have to come to conclusion about.
Okay, well, let's expound on that question, because they are sometimes diametrically opposed to each other, and it becomes that challenge, or even becomes a balancing act. Because a man can say, here's who I am as a man, and I am going to be, and I'm secure in my manhood, that I'm going to express emotion and not hold it in. And then you get around either other men or that woman you're supposed to feel safe with, and who you care about and respect their perspective, and they tell you, because you're that type, you're not a real man. Or even going further to what you said with building that trust, again, speaking my own truth, my own experience, being in that place where I'm supposed to have that safe space and be able to trust that person I've chosen to mate with, in my own experience, and come to find out that person actually was talking bad about me to her friends, and or what men go through is, okay, I've had this safe space with you for 3 or 4 years. Now you mad. Now you throwing all that stuff I've told you back in my face and telling me you've been a punk the whole time, or all kind of negative thing, or they go talk, or they talk to your business to their friends to embarrass you. So, and we other men see that and say, see, that's why I ain't saying nothing, because I don't want that to happen to me. This is our reality. And then when we do talk about these things, the points I just made, let's say to other female friends, and they say, that's not true, that doesn't happen. Well, we all know damn well it does. So thoughts on that?
Yeah. I know I'm a little fresh and new to everyone, so a grand rising to everyone.
Grand rising.
To piggyback a little bit off of what I picked up from Brother Keith and Brother Don, I really feel like it's kind of an open spectrum as far as like how you perceive things. It's like it's whether it's the individual that has the influence over the community, or the community has the influence over the individual in that sense. If you are mating with someone, I would hope or think that you would kind of be accustomed to those attributes before you guys really lock it in, place the title on it, and let everybody know what's going on between y'all. So for something to get to that extent, usually it's built on resentment. Resentment takes time to build. So for something to have gotten that far, it's usually a misstep or a miscommunication between partners, because what she's telling her friend is something that she probably feels that she can't tell you, and then vice versa. You know, sometimes as men, we want to express certain things to our woman, but like you were saying, you know, for just to avoid a situation or miscommunication of some sort, or have her walk off and, you know, have the continued discussion with her friends versus having it with you. Again, I think those are terms that should have been straightened out before anything had ever really evolved into something more. You know, I mean, I know most of us are probably like at least in our mid-20s and above. And I remember back in the days where, you know, before she even talked to you, she talked to like 3 of your friends to figure out who you were. I mean, that's kind of changing now in this climate, but for things to escalate as far as it does to for us for not being able to express ourselves to our queens, I think that has a lot to do with what we're not speaking on, or what we're not really communicating on. And if your queen is not accepting of those things, then there's something that you may want to, you know, have a discussion with yourself about whether I need to continue moving on forward or having these type of thoughts. Because usually all relationships fail in the mind. Like Brother Keith said, it's where you set your intentions, or how you set your intentions. And if your intentions are pure, how can you really falter on your journey? You know what I mean? Now you may have a couple obstacles, but if your partner understands your intentions and you understand their intentions and you're moving together, I really find it very difficult to have friction unless there's another third party that happens to, you know, interfere with that.
So I want to put this in the context of just for the sake of the point.
Yes, sir.
Because I'm not necessarily coming from a perspective of there's a issue between the two parties in the relationship. I'm talking when he is going through some pain, through his trauma, and he shares that, and then what has been shared goes to someone outside of what he feels is his safe space. That's the context of where I'm talking about in this conversation. But your points are very well made and very well taken. Thank you for that input. Did anyone have any else, including anyone in the audience, on anything so far before we press forward?
I'll say that it's a conversation that needs to be had, and it goes back, I think, to having that courage. You know, sometimes we shut things down, like, see, she threw to my face. That's why I'm not going to open up and say anything to her. Not even the fact of what that did to me. You know, because you know, even piggyback what was just said. You know, a lot of times the women they do things. Our queens, they do things not because they hate us or there's some resentment towards us. Sometimes they're just hurt. And so their way is like, how can I, because we're so strong, right? You know, if you come at a brick wall and you throw, you know, a wet paper towel at it, it's not going to do anything. But if you start attacking it with, you know, a sledgehammer, you're going to do damage. And so the best way to damage anybody is to hit them with their emotions, to share someone's weaknesses. You know, it's like Superman. You know, Superman's invulnerable unless you start talking about what his kryptonite is. So now if you go to you throw it back in his face, well, see, that's why, you know, your dad left you, or that's why you were molested, or that's why, you know, you struggle with, you know, your sexuality, whatever the case may be. You throw it back in their face. It's like a jab. It's trying to hurt. It's trying to do that damage, because in her mind, she's, and I don't want to speak for all women, but I would say that, you know, I'm not being heard. And back to, you know, us as men, you know, it's maybe there is some communication things going on because we can't share, or we're trying to share, or when we share that little thing, it gets back in our face, you know. But if we would have to really kind of, I think just kind of take a step back and look at that and say, you know, how do we get to this point, you know, where my vulnerabilities are being thrown back in my face and it's making me not want to shares. That my safe space isn't safe anymore. I come home and I have to keep my armor on. You know, how do we get to this place? Yeah. And I think a lot of it goes back to one, you know, we don't have that open space in a lot of the places to share. Or we don't know if anyone's experienced this same thing. Maybe if we did, they could tell you, hey, kid, this is how I got through. And I've had stories with other Black men that I've known and really respect, where it was because one of them opened up and said, hey, I used to, you know, have these really bad issues with my wife. And I realized it was stemming from, you know, the fact that I was sexually abused as a child, something that's it's very difficult to share. That the guy he was talking to, my other friend, he then said, well, that's probably why I'm having difficulties with my wife, because that's what happened to me. And it was like Mr. Davis said, it was so deep, you know, that I just didn't realize it. And so I think all this kind of works together where if we were able to have that space with other men, you know, we can start realizing that, okay, maybe it's some underlying things within me that's pushing her to try to attack me, try to hurt me. And I would dare say, and you know, my fellow panelists, you guys can correct me if I'm wrong, that it's almost like they're trying to break through to the to break through to our inside, to our emotional side, and they're trying to use anything they can.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. Yes, that's exactly. You hit it out the park. You know,
sir.
grand slam. You know, that's exactly what I was gonna say. You know, it's because of our fear, and we're not sharing things. We're not opening up. You know, it's that emotional detachment that we're having with our queens, and they're trying to be heard. They're trying to connect, and they're trying to do any and everything it is to get a response out of us. But what happens is they take it to a certain level and they actually get a reaction. They don't get the response. They want us to open up. They want us to sit down. They want us to communicate. They want us to share. They want to grow this space. So yeah, definitely.
Man, facts right there. That right there, perfectly. And going back to what's on the screen, you know, when we shut down, it hurts our relationships. And so I think, you know, everyone just hit that out of the park. I'm loving it. I'm moving here to the next one. So
One more thing I want to say. We
please.
have to get past that process of stonewalling. We stonewall with our relationships when our women start criticizing instead of trying to have that conversation. That's just a defense mechanism for us. There, but we're not there. We need to look at that very quickly.
That actually, what you just said is perfect, because it really speaks to the slide I just flipped to. So your timing is perfect. So in order for us to get the help we need to break down that facade. We need to open up. We need to shed the armor for a second. And so I think what you just said, Dr. Davis, is perfect. In order for things to change, there's some things that we need to do so that others who are trying to break through, or others who are counting on us, can do so in their safe space. So I think, I'm not sure if there's anything left to be said based on what you just said, sir. Other panelists, based on this screen, what he just said and what's on the screen now, do you have anything else to add?
I just want to say to you know what, the having that courage to do that, because it boils down to that, you know, having that courage to say, you know what, this time I'm not going to stonewall. This time I'm going to hear her when she says how she feels the first time. You know, this time I'm going to allow for the conversation to evolve and to grow, you know, and respond in kind and just be honest with how I feel. You know, it's a scary thing. To be honest, it's a scary thing. We spend our whole lives, you know, holding everything in, you know, and then in our relationship, the most intimate relationship that we could also have, that we could ever have with our queens, you know, it's as much as we want it's as much as we want to just have it where it's just, okay, I'm super hard in the world, so no one in the world can get to me. But now I come home and take it off. Unfortunately, our minds don't operate that way. Our minds operate off of, we need to protect it. We need to be protected at all times. And any inkling of attack, you know, we put the defense up, we put the wall up. Mm-hmm. And so unfortunately, it's very difficult for us to to compartmentalize that to where it's, just outside and not in the house. And so it takes that courage to say, you know what, and that mindfulness to say, okay, I see the situation that's going on. I see how I'm feeling and how I'm reacting on the inside, right? I'm starting to get frustrated. My heart rate's starting to go up. My voice is starting to get raised. Having that mindfulness and that courage to say, okay, hold on, stop. She's not trying to hurt me. She's just trying to express how she feels. Now let me do the same in kind, in a way that's respectful to her as well. But going all back to that, to the stonewalling part, it takes that courage to be able to do that, because there's a possibility that maybe you will still get hurt. That possibility is always there. So I think it just kind of, like I said, it goes back to that courage and being willing to take those blows if it happens. Yeah, I would say.
Perfect. Perfect. I love it. Anything else before I move to the next one? Okay, great. So going back to even some of the things that we've already covered. So the barriers to us seeking the care that we need. Part of it, I'll jump right to the middle one, is the stigma, and that stigma comes from both each other as men, as well as in society, as well as our counterparts in our female community. So, but we don't want to be considered as crazy. Coming up historically, that has been something that we have had to avoid. Is, if you, like you said, if you can't get it from the church, or if you can't get it this way, you're crazy, and we don't want that label. And it also even stems into how we act on a job, or we disclose to in the workplace, so that the organization we work for can create that safe space for to accommodate us, or we don't want to lose a job. The socioeconomic disparities, again, historically, we don't have the we don't have the options, like our other counterparts have. Of course, the bias and provider bias and inadequacy of care. One of the hardest things when I was going through my stuff initially, again, was, once I finally decided to get help, was finding someone who looked like me, because one who don't look like me is not going to understand my struggle. As much as he might intend to, I'm sorry, and it's no slight on anybody whatsoever, but a European male is just not going to understand my struggle. And it's just, I don't care how much I try to explain it to him, and he may have the greatest intentions also, but it's just not. And so it's a barrier. And so culturally, we don't feel that they would be competent to understand our needs that are unique to theirs. So finding someone, one of the frustrations Lauren and I had is finding people to participate in this panel, psychologists to participate in this panel. And so if it's that difficult with this important of a subject, to even find it, to have this discussion, let alone find someone who's trying to get treatment, and then find one's trying to get treatment with the right, as you can speak to as clinicians, even though you have the right person, but this person that they're seeing, the two of you just may not be a good fit. So finding a clinician that is a good fit for the patient as well is also tough. So these are barriers that we face. But again, there are plenty of practices for families, for women, for kids, but for Black men, it's very hard to find. So any thoughts on that, anyone from the panel?
Yeah, I wanted to make a comment on that. Yeah, to seek services for Black males, it's very difficult. It's difficult for the Black family in general. But luckily, my business partner and I, we've kind of come up with something to kind of help with this. Of course, I mentioned early that historically, the African American church has been the stronghold nationwide. So we have a platform where we've combined here in the Phoenix area, one of the largest Black African American churches, also in the DC area, and also, where is the other location? There's another location in California, and we're working on a few other, where we're combining mental health services actually inside the church. So, you know, that's eliminating a lot of that stigma, a lot of the socioeconomic disparities, you know, a lot of the bias, because of course, since the beginning of time, the church is where we go to seek knowledge, to get help, to find out about different resources in the community. So, you know, I just wanted to let everybody know that's on here, because I know that all of you are connected to certain things in your state and your different churches and so on and so forth. So we are collaborating and partnering with different people, different agencies, so on and so forth, different churches, and we're actually rolling that out, and it's catching on like wildfire. So I just want to throw that out. That's something that's more, you know, innovative and different that we are doing.
Good stuff. All right.
I would say, just kind of another thing, you know, I look back on my graduating class from, because we're talking about the lack of representation, you know, for Black men in the mental health field. And I look back to my graduating class, and I don't quote me on the numbers, but I want to say it was about 90, had to be like 98% women, 98, 99% women. Of those women, there might have been three Black women, and of the whole class as well, there might have been I think there was 2 Black guys. It was me and my friend McCharles, but unfortunately McCharles he passed away shortly after we graduated. So out of the entire class of I say it was like 60, 70 something people, out of the entire graduating class, there was one Black male therapist in that whole entire class. You know, so that just goes to show, I mean, and how many Black men out there that need help, that need someone to reach out to, you know, how difficult it is, like kind of like Martin, like you were saying, you know, how difficult is it to even find a Black male therapist? It's increasingly difficult. I think it goes back to that stigma. You know, when you place a stigma on mental health from a very young age, you know, when kids essentially come out the womb, you know, and you have all these cultural barriers and the financial barriers and all these things, you know, and religion as well, you know, where you just pray the things away. When you have all that, you know, you essentially blocked out that field altogether. You block it out altogether. I remember when I told my father about going into psychology. That's when, I'll be honest, that's why I didn't start until about 2009, 2010. Because my father told me, he's like, don't waste your time going into psychology. You can't make any money in psychology. You know, just, you know, go find something else to do. Not even an idea of what to do. He just said, go find something else to do. And because, you know, I respect my father so much, I was like, well, I'm not gonna go against him, what he's saying, you know. And so that set me back. I didn't actually get into my master's program until 2011. He told me that back in 2003. You know, so that was 8 years. So I say all that to say that the representation, because this stigma, you know, we don't have Black students, we don't have our Black young men, or, you know, thinking about this as an opportunity, a professional opportunity. Yeah, they don't know about what you can do with a private practice and how successful it can be. They don't know about all the resources now available. They don't know about any of that because it's been shut out altogether. So I think that plays a huge role as far as the barriers to seeking mental health care. I think that plays a huge, huge role. And it leaves us just as a culture, as men, it leaves us out here by ourselves. So I just wanted to, I want to add that in there before we move forward.
Out here by ourselves, wow.
Yeah.
Right on point, right on point. Davis.
I graduated in 1987 from my master's program. And I was the only Afro-American male. Now, listen to that same story almost 40 years later is astonishing, because we don't have that role model. There's so much stigmatization. I got the same type of flack back then. Why am I going into mental health? You know, there's no money to be made there. You know, go get a business degree. But when you start talking to so many of our Afro-American men, we shy away from mental health totally. It's been occupation has been feminized. So African American women in there, women period, but you do not find men. We need to get that changed. We need to start talking about going into this occupation. Because we need more African American men to be into it. That's my take on it. Just hearing this over 40, almost 40, 50 years later, we're still struggling with it.
Facts. Thank you. So, speaking of that, so again, as was stated in the video, and we've slightly talked about it in this conversation. So we looked at this. I got this from military training, but the 4 pillars of life, and we talk about the physical fitness. We talk about the needs to be social and belonging to other networking groups or people, and even we talk from a spiritual standpoint. But we shy away from talking about the 4th pillar, which is mental. And so I'm glad we're having this discussion because it's important. And all of these play I will say equally, or it's equally important to a person's overall health. And if we don't pay enough attention to either one of these, then we have some work to do as an individual. So for a person to be resilient and overcome issues or barriers or things that come up in normal life, whether it's relationship, job, whatever, we need to be able to be resilient and come back from any type of traumatic event or just a tough situation or just getting through a tough day. So addressing these mental challenges and especially when they believe head to some behavioral um, um, deficiencies is very important. So, and you mentioned the church. So, and part of the reason that I didn't want to bring this talk about this in this conversation is because a lot of the conversation I had with some young men prior to this, one of the things that they mentioned was religion and how historically, I like history, so I'm glad you were using the words historically. So I'm staying with that word. But historically, that's how we're treated. If you're having some type of issue, just pray. Just pray. And I'm definitely pray, but there's a lot more to it than just prayer. And so, but as you see here, and studies show that a person who has some type of a religious or faith connection, they generally do better in dealing with those mental issues, and whether that be from a standpoint of being optimistic that their God or their concept of what or who God is going to make things better, or if it's because of the social interaction that they still get when they do go to fellowship, to church or whatever. And hopefully there's in this case, a good men's department where, again, iron sharpening iron. Maybe there is some men that someone who will be that person who opens up for whatever reason that happens. It's effective, but also as clinicians, we need to make sure that while to understand where a patient is in whatever their religion of choice is, or spiritual, because there's the difference between religion and spirituality. Wherever they are in their place, we have to respect that and not try to impart our religious view onto that person. And it's a struggle sometimes, I'm sure, but that's something that I've heard, is that even from other people who did go seek help, and then the clinician wanted to talk to them about the clinician's concept of God. And that's not, I find that that's a barrier that has come up. Any thoughts from the panelists on these points?
I probably just started off, I'll start off by saying, one, as part of ethically wise, You know, as clinicians, your job is not to convert anybody. Your job is not to push your religious beliefs on anybody. You know, no matter what you think or about it. I know for me, you know, I am I want to say, I don't want to say religious because I think there's connotations with that, but I do believe in God. I believe strongly in God. I pray in the morning and everything like that. When it comes to my sessions, you know, I let my clients know in the very, very beginning, you know, I will not discuss religion unless you want to discuss it. And if we do discuss, if we do happen to believe the same thing, I am not going to, it's not about my beliefs. I'm just going to try to use the things that you believe to help give you a better, or to help you with a better perspective, or to give you more support. But it's not about me changing what you think or what you feel about your belief. And I think that has to be, I think we need to hold fast to that, because we're not here to, you know, proselyte anybody. Yeah, kind of even going forward from that though, when it comes to religion, you know, you do get that, you know, just pray it away, just take it to God, pray it away, go to the altar, dance it out, cry it out, pray it away, you know. But I've had conversations like, but you're coming back to the altar every single week about the same thing. Every single week you come back, you're crying, rolling, dancing, shouting about the same thing every single week. What are you doing in addition to that? And I'll be honest, I'm just coming from a Christian point of view. Nowhere in the Bible is it just like you just struggle all by yourself all the time. Like that's what you do. Are there times we have to go by ourselves? Yeah, but more often than not, God always worked through a man. He always sent someone to help counsel them. And the Bible says that, you know, there's safety in the multitude of counselors. You know, so that's the very same thing that we're doing, trying to hold it all together by ourselves, isn't even in line with, you know, the Christian belief, you know, because we're supposed to be out there trying to get help. And Dr. Gatson, that's why I wrote it down, and I got to link up with you after this, because that's incredible. You know, going into the church and getting them to start realizing that it's okay to reach out for help. It's okay to hurt. And we have people here to help you, you know, and God bless our pastors and all that stuff like that. But most pastors aren't trained in mental health. You know, they do the best they can. They come with as much as they can, you know, or any religious leader. Most of them aren't trained in mental health. They're trained in what they believe, but not trained in mental health and the inner workings of emotions and things like that. So, you know, I think it's very important for us to realize that, and to realize that even in your religion, even in your spirituality, you know, it's not about just going it alone. You know, it's not about just struggling by yourself and believing by yourself. You know, I can't speak for all religions, but I would like to believe that community is a big part of it, helping each other out, holding each other up, getting through this together. I would like to think that that's a huge part of it, because that's just what I've seen in, you know, some of our mainstream belief systems. You know, it's not about just, oh, you believe that by yourself, you go pray by yourself, you go congregate by yourself. You know, so I think just a fresh set of eyes on our beliefs and what it really means may help in this area of mental health. So we're not leaving, so people aren't feeling like, all I got to do is just pray it away. Because what if God says to you, I want you to go talk to Dr. Gatson. I want you to go talk to Mr. Davis. I want you to go talk to Martin. I want you to go talk to someone. That's what I want. That's my message to you. You know, not the answer, oh, this is how we saw. No, I want you to go talk to them because they experience the same thing you have. Yeah. But if we block it out and say, nope, just pray it away, we're essentially, even the thing what you do believe, you're shutting that down as well.
So on point right there. Thank you for that. So I want to skip in that because slip into talking about some cognitive behavior techniques and therapies. Again, as someone who ended up dealing with going through some cognitive behavioral techniques that were prescribed to me. I know that they can be helpful once a person has overcome the barriers to getting the help. Then what are things that they can do as techniques, as practices, as routine in their day? So I'd like to just allow an opportunity for each of the panelists actually to expound on some things that they think are helpful that a person can practice in their daily habits that are to help with their cognitive behavior adjustments.
Yes, I love cognitive behavioral therapy. You know, it's one of the things that really resonates the most with me, you know, and it also goes back to my faith, you know. I mean, I make no ifs about it, you know. I'm definitely a Christian. You know, what a man thinketh, the man is, you know. So the whole thing is it's that thought process and making sure that your thought process is actually in line with your actions, and being able to do certain things of journaling, um, to explore and see, are you actually creating what it is that you say you're creating, or what it is that you say you want, with actually the actions and the things that you are actually doing, and being able to, you know, explore that. But even along with the more cognitive part, you know, there's other things that definitely affect our thought process, and we've hit on all of those things. You know, your social environment. You know, you want to talk a little bit more about the brain, since we're talking about cognitive. A lot of people don't understand that, you know, if you've been through a traumatic event, and we've all been through traumatic events, that even if you picture that traumatic event on TV and you're simply watching it, that you're re-traumatized again. You know, see, a lot of people aren't aware of that, and then they don't understand why it is that they're drawn to certain things when it comes to, you know, certain music, certain movies that promote violence, and certain things, is because there's already been that chemical release that has taken place in the brain when it comes to that dopamine, that serotonin, that epinephrine, you know, and all of those sort of things. And, you know, people really don't understand that. So a big part of it, you know, is exploring how the brain works. You know, with my clients, I like to talk to them a lot, and tell them with a simple thing, the power of the brain. And I make it a little bit obnoxious, you know, because I like catching people off guard. But, you know, I tell them how powerful the brain is, and I throw it out there. How many of y'all have had a wet dream? You know, there ain't nobody that's out there can say, oh, no, that's never happened to me, or at least I've never ran into one of them. So then what I say, okay, well, if you can conceptualize something in your brain and you can think it up, and then the body automatically responds to it because it never existed and it wasn't actually there, how powerful do you think your thoughts actually are? And I don't want to murder this subject, because we got other professionals that are on here that are probably much more wiser and abreast with this than I am. But you know, I just wanted to go ahead and throw that out there.
I think we have to learn how to deal with our cognitive distortions, things that we start distorting. And those are part of our historical experiences and trauma. But we have to look at this situation and say, how can I change it? How can I frame that much more positive aspect and try to take those distortions out?
I'm sorry, I'm sorry, we're losing you as far as hearing you. Can you repeat, please?
Yeah, I think we have to learn how to deal with our cognitive distortions, how we distort things, what we see. And I recognize that trauma that we have gone through in our historical aspect has been carried down through generations. But we have to break out of that. We have to start looking at things that we can change and more positive, start journalizing and using those experiences and taking those experiences and try to make them more into a positive aspect. We have to get away from all these distortions. And every time something comes up in our lives, we already got this script written. This is how we're going to deal with it. We're not looking for new ways of dealing with things.
Yes, perfect.
You guys are hitting it out the park. Yeah, you know, CBT. That's one of my mainstays for sure, because, you know, Dr. Getz, like you said, you know, as a man thinketh, so is he. You know, and how powerful our thoughts are. And I thought that example because everyone can relate. You can most certainly relate to C. Yeah, you know, my thoughts generated that. And so, you know, within CBT, you know, I like having my clients or my participants, I like having them go back to understanding what their belief is, what their filter is for all their events. You know, if you know, their filter is everyone's out to get me, you know, everyone's out to hurt me, then you're viewing every situation that comes your way as, oh, they're trying to hurt me. And then what do? Like it was said, you know, you play the script. You play the script, you know, that changes your thoughts about the situation. That might have been just someone trying to help. Oh, they're out trying to get me. You know, your feelings are either fear or frustration or anger, and your actions, you know, come out, you know, justifying that feeling, that thought, and that belief. And then there's consequences. And 9 times out of 10, I would say those consequences, they reinforce what you believe in the first place. So you go back and say, see, they're always out there. That person is out to get me, or this situation does happen like that. And it's unfortunate. It's a cycle that continues to go and to go and to go, you know, and then we hang out with people that have similar cycles. You know, we input information, or we input, whether it's music or social media or whatever it is, we input things that continue to solidify that belief. And so for me, I like to kind of to break that cycle, to go back, you know, what happened that made you believe this, or why do you believe it, or is that belief even rational, you know? And then have people start exploring that and using the techniques we talked about, using the journaling, using the looking at the cognitive distortions, using those things for people to finally see, like, wait a second, maybe that's not true. Maybe, you know, all of our queens aren't just angry and mad, you know, maybe they're not all that. You know, maybe I'm just viewing this wrong, you know? So I like to definitely go back and just kind of attack that why, that inner being, that core. Because if you could change that belief, you could change that filter, you could change the thoughts, you could change the feelings, you could change the actions, you could change the results. And success begets success. So the more successful you become, the more you're going to start reinforcing that new belief.
Facts. Brothers, I'm so glad you all are knocking it out of the park today. I mean, it's almost like you were in some conversations I've had privately throughout this week, saying some of the same things you all saying, making the same points. I'm sitting here like, well, y'all was eavesdropping on my conversation. So whatever y'all been doing, y'all tap my phone or something, but I appreciate it because we're all on the same page here. I really appreciate this. I missed this last one. So just for some self-care, some things that, you know, in any individual, you know, we can do to help ourselves, you know, again, going back to being what we need to be as for ourselves as men, as well as because when us doing what we need to do to heal ourselves resonates and puts us in a better place to be with those around us who are dependent on us, dependent on our masculine energy, dependent on our leadership, dependent on our protection, dependent on to be their sounding board. We need to prepare ourselves to be what is needed. So I put this together just to go over some things, and it's a lot of it's what our panelists have already, one way or another, have already stated. So we're right on point. Again, we need to break down those barriers those self-imposed barriers, and take time to feel the emotions that are pent up inside of us, and not beat our own selves up for having those feelings that historically we've been told we're not supposed to have, or weren't important. And then the unrealistic expectations. We have to realize we're not perfect. We have shortcomings just like any other human being, and we know that society would tell us if you're not a real man, if you have this flaw. And usually those statements are made by someone other than men, but we can it's okay for us to have flaws. We don't have to be perfect. So let's be realistic about our own capabilities, and not try to act like we always got it all together, because we don't have to have it all together. No human being should. And that's something that we place on ourselves more than anyone else. Even though it comes from outside, we hold ourselves to that unrealistic standard as well many times. And so we can be present for, like I said, for ourselves and for the people who are counting on us, for others. When our queens, our women, our kids, or whoever else is offering support to us, we need to practice receiving that. You know, we need to put the barrier down and accept those people who are trying to get through to us, that woman who is trying to relate to us, if we'd only let our barrier down. Our kids who care about us, but we're too busy trying to be the strong leader and the hero for our kids, like we have a cape on. And when our kids are like, Dad's human. I know why Dad does that, but we love him anyway. And my own kids have expressed that to me in my own folly. And then we need to learn how to just share when we're going through things and find happiness in things that we're supposedly told we're not supposed to. Before I press from this, again, if there's anyone else have any inputs on things that we can do as individuals to ground ourselves.
Yeah, I could add something. Sorry, I'm a non-video, just clear out my son right here in my lap, but I'm a good friend of Martin's, was what he would say. But so my son is 2 years old, he'll be 3 coming January. And I could honestly say that before him coming into my life, there was definitely a lot more of a barrier, like a mental barrier that was definitely built up from the ground up as far as my own coming up of age and stuff like that. That the moment I kind of set eyes on him, there was a lot of change I kind of wanted within myself and for him to have as well as growing up. I didn't grow up in a community of Black people that I felt were actually supportive of me, especially because I grew up with an extreme vocabulary. I didn't get the support that I had from Black counterparts as well as male or female. So I found myself in a lot of other social circles to kind of circumvent the fact that I kind of still needed an outreach or an outlet to actually find someone to talk to, and things like that. So coming up up until my own life and growing up and all the things like that. Sorry, I'm annoying the crap out of my son right now. Coming up in the way that I did, it didn't allow me to even feel that much more comfortable being around the presence of other Black people, men or women, dating wise, friendship wise, anything like that. And some things that happened in my life growing up that made me kind of realize that I kind of needed to try to let that barrier kind of go and realize that the only people in this world who are going to be able to truly mirror me and the things that I have experienced are people who have the exact same, melanin content as myself. And I had to bring that barrier down. And two of my good friends, my roommates now, have made a very good impression on my life and have allowed me to feel a little bit more safe in this world, or a little bit more de-stressed. And then I came across some people in the military, to include Martin now, who again make me feel like the moment I open my mouth, I'm not being seen in a way where I have to do things like man up or hide the fact that I'm not okay. And that was a very big turning point for me, especially because like many of my own, I grew up without a father, and he had actually passed away on Father's Day. So to have to deal with the first time dealing with the hearing of your own father and then him dying on Father's Day, hanging out with your son, it was a lot for me to absorb all at once. And I remember just telling my supervisor, Martin, that day. And then I think I told him probably an hour or two afterwards, just told him, I was like, I got to find someone to talk to, like I need a therapist. I need to do something about this, because I officially feel like at this point, I'm at a tipping point. And I felt it in, the energy that I had for people. I felt it in a lack of energy I had for myself. I felt it in the irritable that I had in my son. I looked my son in the eyes, and I felt like I looked at him in such a different light that I was like, yeah, I have to see someone. When I did, the first woman that I did see was a white woman, and I felt an immediate wall kind of come up where like I could only speak about so many different things, and I couldn't kind of freely let myself go. So I ended up, telling her, hey, I have to look into someone that's a part of my own community. And I'm grateful that I was able to find someone, a lady named Taryn, who's helped out me and a few of my other friends who are of the Black variety as well. And it's allowed me to feel that much more safer. It's allowed me to open up that much more and express self. The woman that I'm dating now, the young, beautiful Black woman, who's allowed me to also open up myself in her, and she doesn't judge me, because again, I didn't have that growing up. And it's just been a blessing, you know what I'm saying, to kind of realization, especially at the age and point that I am, especially when it comes to my son, and knowing that there has to be a change, not that we can make a change, that there has to be, has been really well-rounded kind of relationship. So thank you, Martin, of course, for, you know, having this discussion and stuff like that. To the Black queens who have joined us on this, I do appreciate you all for, you know, allowing us to sit here and express the grievances that we do go through, and just kind of just be an ear, because a lot of times we don't have that. We think that we do, and then the moment we open our mouth, it's something it's used against us. It's a dagger. It's another thing that gets us a one up or a leg up. And I personally experienced that a lot, where I did try my best to kind of come to women and, you know, express how I felt about stuff. And the moment you open your mouth, it's like, well, now you're less than. Now you're the second in this relationship. You're no longer the height of the household. But, you know, you can only be strong so long, and you can only carry so much. No matter at the end of the day, you can only carry so much. You can only be so much. But it's been a blessing to be able to kind of turn around, especially at this point in time in my life, for myself, my son, a good community of the friends that I've created around me. I always, you know, advocate for therapy. I advocate for reaching out to your fellow Black man or fellow Black woman when you need to. I'm always listening ear to those who need it, things like that, just because I know that coming up, getting a lot older now, that I'm going to get to an age where I'm, you know, as young as Martin. And, you know, I would love to have myself surrounded by just that of my own. I want to be able to just kind of feel completely accepted and well-rounded, and have my son come up in a community where he can feel accepted, emotionally, socially, physically, you know, religiously, things like that. But again, thank you for you all.
Yeah, I wanted to say, you know, thank you so much for sharing that. And most importantly, welcome home. Welcome home.
Right.
Thank you.
Thank you, Dawn, for sharing that as well. I know we've had a lot of discussions, and I'm really proud of you and what you are, and what you've done. And so just keep doing what you're doing.
Thank you.
Anyone else? Anyone else want to weigh on this? Okay. So just want to talk about some resources that are available to us. I'll leave this on the screen for a little while if someone wants to write down the links or anything. But I tried to find resources that specifically spoke to Black men. You know, again, there's plenty that talked about Black family, Black women, but very few that were directed, that had a targeted audience specific for Black men. And that really is the premise for today's discussion, is that, because I want to, again, not just help my brothers, but I truly believe that as more men get healing, our community will be in a better place. And I'm looking, and my ultimate, Black Cosmos' ultimate objective is to prosper the Black community. And a Black community, any society is going to need its warriors. And we need to return to a state of our warrior mentality, not in the aspect of violence, not in the aspect of conquering, but in the aspect of protecting and prospering, so the other members of our community can fulfill their roles without having to take on some of ours, and be safe while they're doing so. If there's more resources in this, I mean, I did enough to put on the slide. And again, I found very few. So, and this is being recorded. So we hopefully we'll be able to make this available. And also I have the slides if someone is interested in them. I have no pride in ownership especially if it's going to help someone seek the help that they need. Again, to the panelists, I'll open it back to you if you want to discuss other resources.
As you said, pretty much, you know, there's not that many resources out there, unfortunately. You know, we're definitely in a limited space when it comes to, you know, connecting us, you know, for Black male issues to our community. But, you know, anybody that's on the panel, anybody that's listening, you know, you can always find me, and I'm sure some of the other panelists also, on Psychology Today. You know, I'm always open, I'm always free. You know, I'll reach out. You know, we can talk and we can discuss referrals, so on and so forth. So, you know, I think pretty much we've said it. We're all in this space. We're all in this time. You know, to move the marker forward. You know, for our community. So.
Okay, great. So that is the last that I have of slides. I'll open it up to any other remarks from the panelists or anyone who is on this in our audience. If they have any questions that they would like to pose to myself or anyone that's on the panel, and I will open it up to anyone, male or female, who would like to ask any questions.
The chat is now open as well. If someone doesn't want to talk, they can type.
I was a little late, so I missed about an hour. And you guys said that you may be posting this. I just wanted to know what did I miss on the early end of everything, if you don't mind, you know, just kind of perusing through real quick.
I'm sorry, your question is, when will we have this posted, the link?
Oh, not necessarily when we have this posted, but necessarily what was spoken about, what was spoken on, or the subjects that were discussed about an hour early, because I was an hour late.
Oh, okay. So we started off just talking about why it's so important for us as a Black community, not just as Black men, for us to seek the help that we need. And we showed a little bit of statistics about how we as a Black community really have the propensity for need more than our European or other counterparts, because of the traumatic experiences we've gone through as a Black community historically, as well as, we also talked about how, despite our greater need, we don't seek the help collectively as a community that we do need, for whatever reason, whether it be stigma, whether it be because of societal norms, whether because we just don't talk about it, because of family, whatever. And then we talked about, again, as men, how we don't seek the help that we need because we could be considered as not being a real man. We get called names. We become vulnerable, just for various reasons. You know, men just don't seek the help that they need. And then we talked about what happens when a man does not seek, when a person, we're talking about men, but when a person does not seek the help that they need, how that can result in changes in their behavior as far as volatility, emotionally, how it affects their family, their friends, their relationships, how it can lead to bad habits such as womanizing, drinking, you name it, just different behaviors that will come out when the help that's needed is not sought, so they can address their needs in a healthy manner. That was basically the gist of what we talked about prior to your arrival.
I appreciate that. And I just want to thank you guys for actually taking the time. I believe that you had a couple of these before, but this is my first time actually attending. I mean, I've been in Las Vegas for about 2 years now, so it's truly a pleasure to just be on here and listen to what you guys have to say and all the tips that you have been providing. So I just want to thank you guys.
Thank you for joining us, and thank you for allowing us to be here for you. If there's no other questions from the audience, I'd like to actually, and I can't see the chat. Is there something I should be seeing in the chat?
Yes, there is something on the chat. It's from Michelle Walker. She says, are you finding Black male pastors to be open to bringing mental health discussions into the church? Are they willing to participate as well? Black male pastors are very well wounded too.
Yes, I kind of talked. I'm not sure if she was present when I had spoken earlier about Faith Solutions to Mental Health Services is the organization that I am a partner with, and that we're actually collaborating with the church to bring mental health services inside the church, where we're working along with, you know, pastors and the whole congregation to break down some of those, you know, those barriers, those stigmas, those stereotypes, you know, and we've seen, man, open arms. We really have nationwide to many pastors and congregations that, you know, want to come in and collaborate with us for us to roll out with them our platform and to provide these services, because it's I believe right now in this time, especially with COVID, that the need is just so high. Even pastors are overwhelmed, and even pastors, although with their strong faith, the majority of them understand, and some of them
she was like, she's a neat freak. She like very.
She got that little walk in too, like his.
What you mean walk in?
We're getting some feedback from somebody that's not on mute here.
Oh yeah,
Give
she
me
had a
1
picture.
second.
I took a picture of that because I like how she had it. Oh yeah, yeah. That's about the same size.
Okay. I took care of that real quick. Sorry. We love our people, don't we?
Yes.
All right.
Yes. Can I finish saying what I was saying?
Yes, please continue.
Okay. All right, let me see where I was. Yeah, okay. So the pastors and the congregations and the churches that we've been working with, you know, praise God, you know, they've been open-armed. They've helped, you know, further this along, so on and so forth. And we are growing rapidly, and we're meeting the needs of the community. So we've seen that. And although some of the pastors, although they have strong faith and they know the word of God, you know, they're able to utilize these resources along with that in collaboration and partnership, you know, to help the congregation as well as themselves. And we're seeing this nationwide.
Awesome. We have another question in the chat.
Yeah.
What are recommendations for Black women who want to support Black men without demasculating them and still pushing them to be leaders? So what are some things that us queens can do?
I was actually just reading that, so I think we can probably address this from several different angles. If I can start from the personal angle and do just real talk. One, from a male's perspective, obviously I'm being general, it's hard to know who we're dealing with until we're in that moment. And what I mean by that is, just like we don't want to make general statements about women, but you have some women who will say, oh, it's okay to cry. And then you have other women who will say, a man who cries is a punk. You don't know which woman you got until you're in that moment and you see how she reacts, even if she says it. So as to me, Black women, first off, if he does cry, don't treat him differently and let him know it's okay. I would say, listen, when he does try to express, you dominate the conversation, and you hear without listening, and you talk, and he's supposed to listen and understand. I think that hurts. Also, men don't communicate like women, so stop expecting us to communicate the same way women communicate with women. I think that's an unfair situation we're put in. Is we might be expressing the same thing but in a manly way, and it's not received because it wasn't presented in a womanly way, and then it breaks down communication. And so I think understanding that we are wired differently by design, and we're just not going, and so to tell us we don't communicate when we actually are communicating, just not in a womanly way, I think that is a good start. Anyone else can please chime in.
Before anyone else comments on that, I want to piggyback a question onto that because it's similar, and Martin, you kind of touched on it a little bit. Someone else asked, what are some strategies to get males to open up as opposed to shutting down, and trust has been built? So if you guys can address that, both of them. Basically, what can we do, you know?
Yeah, if I can add something from the younger perspective, I guess, I'll put on my video on this time so I can, if I can even see my own face at this point. Hello, I'm Dorian. So one thing I can say from my own perspective is first recognizing or like acknowledging your own isms or like things that your own prejudice that you kind of just have towards Black men, because everyone has their own stigma or their own biases that they have yet to acknowledge or accept that they do, so that they can kind of help rewire themselves to not look at us as other, in the sense of like not being less than or whatever it may be, and that you see it as, you know, we're not always here to necessarily look and be angry. You know, we just don't have the best way of, we didn't have the same exact ways to express ourselves as far as communicating with. So the acknowledging piece is one thing about it. And I honestly would say that if you feel like you don't have someone as a woman, as a queen, sorry, that you can share or get an actual support system from, like as a best friend or, you know, a mother, a grandmother, things, or not, or, you know, an aunt who's actually in a really established relationship of their own, then I would definitely say that it's not a bad thing to also see some type of guidance counselor in that same respect, to kind of help you better guide yourself to feel more open to accepting someone else's pain, frustration, anger, resentment of whatever the case may be. Those would be some of the two more profound ways to do so. That way people feel, me myself, for example, the way that I feel is, like I said before, there wasn't as much acceptance before, but talk to the woman that I am now, she's seeing someone else to make sure that in those moments where she feels like she can't support me, that she at least learns another strategy on how to do so, to be more effective in our own relationship. Yes, sir. Who is that? It's uncle. I know, it's uncle, yeah. But those are some things I would say.
Thank you. Brother Xavier has his hand up. Brother Xavier, you have something to say?
Oh yeah, thank you. I just want to for sure thank everyone that spoke, even everyone with their questions. That's helpful as well. Something that really stuck out about 40 minutes ago was, I believe you, Martin, where you were talking about how it's important not to relive past traumas, because it essentially takes you back there and then you re-experience it. Can you talk a little bit more about that in detail, and especially why it shouldn't be done? Thank you.
So thank you for that question. So rehashing situations in the past that and it's not so much of not as forgetting them or even or burying them in a sense of where it's unhealthy. However, or matter of fact, you can't, because you can't forget something that you have gone through. But if so I wouldn't necessarily say don't rehash something. It's if rehash it, if you're working on dealing with it, dealing with it, recognizing it is what it is, and how do I get the help I need to heal from it or address it in a way so I can, in a healthy way, move on move on from it, or how is it affecting me still today? Is there something I still need to deal with so that I can live today? Even going back to the grounding slide that I just had a minute ago about living in the present. So it's not about forgetting what has happened or it's about not reliving it mentally, or recognizing the effect it has on you today, so you can address it appropriately. That's my personal view. I'd like to have one of our subject matter experts on the panel actually speak to it more from a clinical perspective.
I think, touching on that, I have to understand what trauma is, and it's the fact that when we say relive the moment, it's almost like it's not almost, it is, it's just like you're in that moment all over again. Right. So come back from war, you could be at home and you just hear a sound and something sets it off. It means the brain has not processed the event. And when your brain hasn't processed the event, you are stuck right there in that event and can go no further. until that your brain processes the event. And I think the best way I like to describe it is normally what happens is your brain's like a super information highway, right? And so information is going and going and going, and it goes through this process where you experience an event, you have the emotions, you file the emotions away, separate from the memory, and so then you bring it up again, and you don't have that extreme emotional response. And that's why the reason why I said extreme emotional response is because you can think about, like, there's times when I think about my father who passed away, yeah, and I might get a little emotional about it, yeah, but it's nowhere near like when I broke down when I found out that he had passed away and really hit. It's not the same. So when it comes to trauma, and this is why it's so important to seek out professionals as well and to seek out help and not try to struggle with it on our own. Because like Mr. Davis said and Martin said, it's it's a struggle, and it's hard, and it's difficult, and it causes so many issues. And you had to figure that out by yourself. It's, my hat's off to you guys for even able to hold on that long till you got help. So it's really important the way trauma, like I said, the way trauma works. It's like think of like a car accident on the highway. Nothing's getting past that until you clear it up. And those things that whether it's watching on TV or something in a conversation or a car backfiring or any number of things that simulate that event trigger those emotions associated with that event. You relive it all over again and we get re-traumatized all over again. And it's like I was saying in CBT, that cycle, it just makes it worse and worse and worse over and over again, reaffirming how bad that the situation was.
Great. Any other questions? I don't see anything else in the chat. Any other one in the audience?
We have one for Dr. Gatson.
Oh, okay, I see that. Okay.
Can you repeat the name of the organization you are partnering with to bring mental health programs into the church? Is it Families First?
No, it's not Families First. It's pretty straightforward. It's Faith Solutions to Mental Health Service.
Faith Solutions to Mental Health. Outstanding. Okay. Amanda, you got that? Sorry, did someone come?
Yeah, Mark, I was wondering if I could just kind of step back to one of the questions about how to approach, basically how to approach a man without demasculizing him. I think one of the, I speak a little bit clinically and a little bit personally, one of the ways is, I know for me, I have to know that my queen personally cares, like she truly cares about me. If I feel she truly cares, she personally cares about me, it helps to really put that guard down. Now, I don't have like a one size fits all for that, right? Because everyone's gonna feel that care in a certain way. But I know, like I read the 5 love languages, and that's a good place to start. If you could understand how your king wants to be loved, how he receives love, and you can, and it does take work on the front end. I'll say that. So you don't wait until you get in that situation to then kind of turn it on. It takes work on the front end because he has to be able to put his armor down and get used to having his armor down. So if he knows you care, if he knows you love him, then he'll be less likely to take your suggestions as, oh, she's challenging my authority, she's challenging my manhood, and more so, this is my queen who loves me, who's really just trying to go out there and she's really trying to just support me in what I'm doing. And so I think that's a good first step. As far as a specific strategy is concerned, some people say 3 positives to every 1 negative. I would say up that to 5 positive, every 5 positive interactions, 5 positive statements, 5 positive something to your king, for every 1 negative. So if you do bring something up, let's say he has the potential to be, to get that degree. He has the potential to start that business. He has the potential to do whatever. And he has his own internal struggles with it. Maybe he's scared, or maybe he just thinks he's good enough, whatever the case may be. And you approach a situation and you've already had all those positives beforehand. He's not going to take that as a challenge to who he is. And on top of that, you'll be able to encourage him and say, hey, I'm in your corner. Whatever you want to do, if you want to go start that business, if you want to go back to school, listen, I'll hold it down here for the kids. I love you, so on and so forth. If he could feel comfortable in that, once again, creating that space, then he'll be less likely to lash out or less likely to shut down or stonewall, and more likely to be like, hey, this is someone who truly cares. And I've seen that I think happen time and time again, not just in relationships, but also not just in like intimate relationships, but also personal relationships. That men will be a lot more likely to be open, even to other men who give them that space and let them know, hey, I'm just here to support you. I'm here to watch, just look out for you, have your best interest at heart. Even the tough conversations. If they know you care, then they're going to put that armor down and be like, okay, well, I know this person cares. So what they're saying, they're not trying to hurt. So I think those are some strategies you can take. So like they said, find out what the love languages are, yours and his, because sometimes you might be empty and you may not want to give him his, or you might be a complete polar opposites. So find out what your love language is, find out what his love language is, build him up in that with 5 positives to every 1 negative. And I think that's, like I said, I think that's a good place to just start for right now, to build that foundation.
And also a little bit to add to that also is modeling, you guys. Modeling is so huge. We have some strong, incredible, talented brothers that are all around us. And the thing is you want your man connected to those brothers. It's something about that power in numbers and that synergy type movement. And that's what you want to be. It may be impeding on y'all time sometimes, but you want your man to have that time, especially, the word was leaders, especially some brothers that are leaders in your community. Let him go. Let him get it in with his fellas. He will come back home if you treat him right.
Word. If I can throw my personal side of that, let the man watch football. If you let him watch football, especially the 49ers, I'm throwing it in there and whatnot. But yes, but that's me. Just let me watch my football. Be good. Any other questions from the audience?
I have a question.
Thank you.
I just had a question about what kind of advice can you give a African-American mother who is raising an African-American king? You want to do right and guide them in the right direction, but you don't want to have that title of he's like your husband, because he's not your husband. He's your son that you're preparing for someone's daughter. And I understand the lead by example thing, but what kind of advice can you give a mother on what steps that can be taken when you have a young man in your life that you want to grow up to be a king?
I'll start with my mother, who's to me the perfect example of what a strong Black woman should be. She kept me highly involved in church and had a lot of at least enough positive real male role models around me that at least had some type of an influence, even more influence than I realized at the time, that I didn't realize till later on in life. But my mother kept me around those positive male role models who I saw bringing their wife and kids to church, who I saw on usher board, I saw taking time with their families. So at least I saw what a man should be. And even now, I'm also a member of 100 Black Men of Las Vegas, and we have mentoring programs specifically for us men to pair up with boys, and to provide that outlet as well for single mothers to have someone say, hey, can you please mentor my son? Of course, it has to be a relationship built between the son and whoever the mentor, but at least having your son around positive male role models is key. Remembering in your own mind that he's not the man of the house, because that also happened to me at 9 years old. I became the man of the house, and that was not good for my ultimate development. So remembering that, and never make any statements. I'm not, obviously not you. I'm talking in general. but never make statements about you ain't no good just like your dad, or negative stuff about his father to him or in front of him, or allow other people to make negative comments about his father. Because I also grew up a lot around women who were perfectly fine making a lot of male bashing comments, and that's not good. So I mean that was to me a good start. Anyone else have something to add?
Yeah, I think you hit it out the park, Mr. Walker. You know, it's that modeling. You know, I grew up in a single mother home also. You know, and if it wasn't for those brothers in the community, I'll share something with y'all. I find it funny now, but I was at home one time. My mom had a boyfriend that called the house. And back then my voice was high. I think my voice is pretty deep now, but back then it was high. And he said, "Hey, baby," you know what I mean? I was like, oh man, I was crushed. But then I had, you know, my buddy who was my best friend. He was there. He's like, "What happened? What happened? What happened?" So I'm telling him what happened. And he said, "You know what?" He said, "Don't worry. You know, Brother Davis that's in the church with that deep, deep voice." And I said, "Yeah." He said, "Your voice gonna be like Brother Davis's. Don't worry about it." But if I wasn't connected to that brother in the church and his deep voice and that connection, you know, that would have been a traumatic event for me, and I would have carried that for a long time. So it's exactly how, you know, Brother Martin is saying. You know, it's that connected. You know, there's brothers out there. There's brothers that's gonna step up to the plate. That's gonna be there. You just gotta look for them.
I don't want to belabor the point, but one example that I saw was he gets his martial arts specialist. His name is Jason Wilson, and there was a video that went out. I must have been like a year or so ago, where he had this dojo, where he was training the young black men not just to do martial arts, but also how to manage themselves and how to be allowed to feel. And so that's important for any young man. So if and I know it can be difficult finding those good examples. I think that's what I think a lot of single mothers, their struggle really is. I think a lot of them know he needs a man in his life, but it's just difficult to find those positive role models who are willing to kind of put that, you know, take that time with them, or even just they can show and say, hey, you can be like brother so-and-so, or you can be like Dr. So-and-so, you know? So I think, you know, trying to find those organizations, trying to link up with them, like this one in Vegas, 100 Black Men, you know, trying to link those organizations and trying to get your son involved with them, get your son involved with these positive role models and keep them around so that they can, you know, kind of soak that up and see, okay, this is how a man manages himself. This is how a man takes care of his business. This is how a man shares his emotions. So I think that's one way that single mothers can, you know, our queens can, you know, help their sons. And once again, not being man in the house as well, because that responsibility is much too large for any child to undertake. And it's more than just doing chores and taking care of siblings and things of that nature. It's so much more. There's so many different aspects that go into that. So I think that's one of the ways that you could have your teenage son or your young Black son to grow into a man, even if his father is not in his life.
Right.
You know,
to add it,
I want to add to it just actually that personal thing is that.
Hold on, can I real quick, Martin? So the word that they're all around is parentifying. So I look up the definition of that word because I myself was inflicted with the pain of being parentified. I'm the oldest of 5 siblings. And it was a lot bigger than, like he said before, of just raising or watching your siblings. It was the fundamental idea of actually raising them. Stripped a lot of just kind of being a kid away. My mom, on the positive side of things, because she was a single mother, she was my best friend growing up. And I mean best friend in the sense of I felt very comfortable telling her things that were going on and happening around me. There was no judgment. There was no bias. There was no, you know, you could have done things differently. She kind of allowed me to just kind of explore certain things in the sense of, you know, sure, there was still a leash, but the leash had some distance or a little bit of give to it. So, and then I guess that was a really big thing for me, and it really helped out in that realm of a lot of my life. I would say the last thing, be your best friend, parentification, and understanding that as a queen, you know what I'm saying, that in raising a son that he's gonna fail. Acknowledging the fact that yes, he's not gonna always be at his prime or at his best, but allowing just to still support him in that downtime, to still acknowledge the effort that was actually put into whatever the rigorous item may have been. Those are some things that I personally can say helped me grow into the person that I am now, just coming directly from the hand of my single mom. Those were some top tier 3 things there.
Thank you, Dorian. Brother Davis, you were trying to chime in?
I agree with what saying about having a social model for your young men. And also, I want to say that as a single mother, listen to what he has to say. Be empathetic to what he's trying to say. He's trying to struggle and find himself. He's looking for you to be someone that's supportive of him and listening.
Exactly.
I do agree with that because first of all, let me clarify. The son is not, he's 22 years old, first of all. And I listened to some of the things that you gentlemen said about when you were going to go into your field. And this is the same field that he wanted to go into, wants to go into rather. And I can hear some of my downfalls just in listening to you men. He's an excellent young man. He has dedicated his life to God. My problem is that I feel that by raising him in the community that I raised him in, he's kind of like Dorian, speaking about, not being around a whole lot of African Americans. And I think that as a young man, he needs to be around more positive Black men to see, and he's aware that you're out there, but he needs to see, what you look like, how you roll, how you speak, how you do things. And that's my concern for him. It's not so much that he didn't get what he's supposed to get. It's that he needs to see how you guys do things. And by us living in Las Vegas, it's very limited in that area because we do go to a diverse church. And so it's more of them than it is us. And I just want to know, like, how do you deal with that, living in a community where it's not predominantly Black, but you want your son to be, recognized as a king?
What, I just want to tell you, Gigi, what you just said about your son, for me, made this whole thing worth it. So I thank you for sharing that.
He was with us at first. He had to leave, so but he said that he wanted the recording of this because he really enjoyed what you guys were seeing. So that was a lot to me because that meant that he was interested, because he worked and came in at 8 o'clock this morning and he's tired. So he hung in there as long as he could. But I wanted to make sure that he gets the rest of this, because this type of platforms are the start of him getting where he needs to go as a young African American man, and that's very important to me as a mother, a single mom. I'm not dealing with a kid anymore, a 9-year-old or a 10-year-old. I'm dealing with a grown man who still has young tendencies at times. And that's because that lack of growth was not there. That lack of growth was, it was a lack of growth in that area. So thank you for this platform, and thank you for what you guys have brought to it. I appreciate it as a mother.
Thank you for sharing, Gigi. I appreciate it.
You're welcome.
Unless there's any further comments or questions from the audience, I'd like to do a round of final remarks for each panelist. Am I missing anything, Lauren?
No, you're good.
Okay, great. Brother Davis, I'll start with you. Any parting words, sir?
I really appreciate this opportunity to be on the panel, and I think a lot of good information has been disseminated. I think we have touched on a lot of good points, and I think we have a lot of development to go. I appreciate learning more about resources available in the community for Afro-American men, especially in Las Vegas. Thank you.
Thank you again for participating. Brother Fairclough, sir.
Yeah, I definitely appreciate this opportunity and this time for us to have these discussions. And I've been taking down notes. You know, I've been learning as I've been listening, you know, to my fellow panelists, and also, you know, from the questions, you know, people have asked, and from some of the other things that some of the participants have discussed as well. So it's been truly a blessing. You know, I know it's the situation. It is a situation, and it is a one that needs dire attention. You know, but I've seen, you know, I really believe as a community we're starting to move in the right direction. You know, and especially in these since this pandemic, I've seen more of our kings and queens reaching out, you know, for help. I've seen more of them willing to open up and talk. You know, I've seen more of you know, of my friends, you know, they're in the home, they're doing what they're supposed to do, you know, for their queens, for their children. So as a community, we're in it may be a bad place right now, but we are making progress, you know, and as long as we continue to have these conversations, as long as we continue to recognize that, you know, our kings, our thoughts and feelings and emotions matter, we can get back to that place where, you know, we're standing in the position we're supposed to. You know, so there is hope. I just want to leave everyone with the idea that, you know, that there is hope, and we can and will move towards that, and we will get better.
Thank you. Thank you for that. I'm gonna capitalize on that. There is hope. That's the key right there. We can move with hope. Appreciate that. Dr. Gadsden.
Yeah, I'm just, you know, overjoyed, you know, and I'm just so grateful to be able to have shared this time, this place, and this space, you know, with you guys today. And I definitely know that it is not by my will, but by the will of the man above, you know. And I'm excited at the time that we're living in right now, you know, as a people, as a Black community, you know, knowing our history, knowing what things that we've been through, and knowing exactly where we're going. And just keep the faith, you know, keep doing, Brother Martin, you know, with your organization and everything, and the movement and the things that you're doing. You know, this is definitely something that's positive. It's definitely something that's needed. You know, I'm gonna keep you fired up now. You know, before then, brother, I didn't even have the pleasure of knowing you. You know, but now I'm gonna get to know you, and I'll be in Vegas too. You know, giving you a nudge and making sure that you're doing the right thing, and with the other brothers that's up there in Vegas too. You know, I'm just excited about this connection. I'm excited about, you know, what God is doing. You know, I believe hurt people. You know, it's time for us to get our healing. You know, it's time for us to move on and embrace our kingdom.
Yes.
Because everywhere in every continent that we've been, we built the kingdom.
Sure.
So if we built the kingdom, we need to be there sitting on the throne. You know, so
say that.
I just thank you guys, and yeah, I'm just excited because this spark will turn into something completely different, a huge fire, and it's gonna be something that cannot be extinguished or put out. So thank you guys so much.
Appreciate you. Lauren, want to thank you as leader of Black Cosmos for this platform for us to have this event. Do you have any parting words?
I do. I want to say first and foremost, I feel so honored to have been able to sit and listen to you brothers talk. I really wanted to do this. I had been talking to Martin for a while about doing something with mental health, because I have felt in my spirit there have been some things going on with our Black men, and I kept wanting to see brothers start to have their moment. I feel like women, we've had this women empowerment movement, and the sisters is out here killing it, and the men are doing some great things too, but I didn't see that moment happening. And as a daddy's girl, I'm extremely attached to my father. As a woman that has a king in my household, 2 stepsons and 6 brothers, I definitely felt like there was something going on in the atmosphere in the world where men needed to have this moment of healing. So I wanted to play whatever role I could in calling this forward. And there was a really special reason why I wanted this to be our 9th installment. For those of you that know me, I'm big on numbers and numerology, and the number 9 is the start of new beginnings. So I hope that these conversations, the conversations you have when you log off, when you go home, that you have in other platforms, I hope that we are planting seeds and that we are watering them divinely for them to spark this movement for our brothers to start having a moment too, so that Black men and women can come together as the power structure we are meant to be, and start building together, understanding each other, healing together, learning together, and overcoming together. So I thank you guys for coming on here. Self-disclosure is difficult, and I respect everything that y'all shared. And Black men, I love you.
Thank you.
Damn it, I love y'all. All right, thank you. Back to you, Martin.
All right. Thank you again, Lauren. And thank you for to everyone who has shared their time to support this important conversation, and allowed myself to open up and be vulnerable. That hopefully my testimony will be a help to someone else.